Good morning. I'm Charles Balsa for Speak NJ. I'm here today with Esther Whitmer, a civic activist, and we're here to discuss the pending transfer of land from the City of Jersey City and the Jersey City Municipal Utilities Authority to the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency to benefit the Liberty Science Center here behind us. Good morning, Esther.
Good morning, Charlie. Thank you for having me.
Would you be kind enough to tell our audience exactly what might be happening with this transfer of land?
Certainly. So the way I understand it is the Liberty Science Center is venturing out to a new arm of a project called SciTech City. And while I and many others are not questioning the worthiness of the project, what we are questioning is the agreement as to how this is being done. So the way I understand it is the city and the MUA will be transferring over 16 acres of property in terms of ownership to the Liberty Science Center, which to me seems like a major transfer of wealth from the public to a private or semi or quasi-private organization. There are a lot of questions that we have in terms of the details of the agreement and why the property itself has to be transferred over.
That's very interesting. And of course, we understand that we're right here on the edge of Liberty State Park. There is quite a lot of development that's happening in the area. And I'll just mention that directly behind us, about a minute's walk away to the north at Johnston Avenue, is a plot of land of about 7 acres that a developer recently bought for $35 million to develop approximately 2,000 units of housing. So I guess the point is also that the people the public is unaware of the value of the land that the city is about to transfer has been asking for an appraisal of that land. Is that not correct?
That's correct, Charlie. I know that as for myself, I've gone down to a couple of council meetings prior to the issue getting to this point, requesting that an appraisal be done on the property so that the public could see exactly what they were handing over. Additionally, I would think, because when you look at the agreement, the appraisal will not be done until the property is transferred over, which doesn't really make sense to me, because I would think that the city would want to know what the value of the property is, and the Liberty Science Center would want to know what the value of the property is, because according to the agreement, or what we were told, I haven't seen it in the agreement, and I do have a copy of that with me, the property will be transferred over to the Liberty Science Center, and they will raise $78 million initially. After that $78 million has been raised, at that point, the surplus that the Liberty Science Center will make in terms of revenue or profit will then be split 50-50 until they've paid off the appraised value of the property, which of course we don't know. At that point, once the appraised value is paid off, then the split will be 80-20, 80% for the Liberty Science Center in perpetuity. Now, we have not seen any type of projection numbers in terms of what kind of revenue the Liberty Science Center anticipates bringing in. We don't know anything about the project itself, and quite frankly, Charlie, I don't understand why we just don't lease the property to the Liberty Science Center as we do with other properties.
Very good point, Esther. Thank you. Esther, I understand that the Liberty Science Center has been operating financial deficit in the years 2014 and 15. Is that not correct?
I believe that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so the idea that they have, a sound financial record, is not necessarily the case. The public at large might wonder, well, why are we so eager to give such a potentially valuable piece of land to someone who hasn't proven himself capable of operating a facility of this type?
Well, I believe that they just recently entered into the black. I don't know if there really is an established track record that shows that they've been, that they are able to take on a project of this magnitude, close to $300 million, because we haven't seen any of of the projections. We haven't seen the financial structure of how they're going to put this together. I know I read somewhere, Charlie, that they project that this will inject about $33 million into Jersey City economy, but where is the feasibility study to show, what are they basing this on? So, there are a lot of questions that we can ask about this project. I know one of the things that's been said is that the property cannot be transferred over, that once it's given to the Liberty Science Center, it must stay within the 501c3. But, and I'm not an attorney, and it would be nice to have someone take a look at the agreement, but there is a clause in the agreement, actually there are two clauses in the agreement. One that says that they can apply for a pilot, or an abatement, okay? And then there's another part of the agreement that talks about how the Liberty Science Center would not be able to transfer the property, but there's some exceptions. And one of the exceptions clearly states, except to purchasers or tenants of commercial or residential units. So that to me sends a red flag in terms of, is this just a language thing that we're talking about here? Well, yes, you cannot transfer the property, but yes, we have language in here that suggests that might be able to be done.
Absolutely. And I understand also that one part of the agreement is that the Liberty Science Center would incorporate the construction of a new Jersey City public school within the boundaries of the facility. And of course, at this time, we know that the Jersey City school system is suffering. In fact, today, the Jersey City Teachers Association has published a full-page ad addressing the mayor and city council to take a real hard look at this and to reconsider or to hold back on granting this transfer of land. Is that correct?
I don't know about that, but I do know that the agreement does say that the project would provide for a school K through 12. However, it does not qualify what type of school it would be. So it's very open-ended. It could be a public school, it could be a charter school, it could be a private school. Do we have any kind of commitment, written commitment from the State Department of Education that says that they will help put this school into place? Because you say it's a public school, and I hear it's a public school, but I don't see anything in writing that says that that's what, in fact, will be put into the property or into the project. Why not just give the public school system 1 or 2 acres? We're talking about 16 acres of property here, and that is a huge transfer of wealth.
That's exactly correct. Another interesting point, Esther, is that I understand that the Jersey City Corporation Council, Mr. Farrell, Jeremy Farrell, is sitting as the executive director, an interim executive director of the Jersey City Municipal Utility Authority. Is that not correct?
Correct.
And also there might be another conflict in that the council president, Rolando Navarro, also sits on the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency. Is that not correct?
Correct.
Or is it the Municipal Utility Authority?
JCRA.
Okay, yeah. Let me correct myself. The city council president, Mr. Navarro, sits on the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency. So right there, you might have just two conflicts with two individuals who are now employed by the city.
Yes, I think that is a conflict of interest when you have a council member who also sits on the board of the JCRA. So the city is going to transfer the property from the municipality to the JCRA agency, who will then vote, I assume, to giving this property away. I think that's a conflict of interest. I think Mr. Navarro needs to recuse himself from those votes. I also think the fact that we have our corporation counsel, who's now taken on a second job as the director of the Municipal Utility Authority. I mean, who does he represent? Where are the checks and balances of looking out for our best interest or the best interest of the public?
Right. And I think another thing also is that at this time, the residents of Jersey City have just been notified that a reval is underway, which basically will affect 1/3 of the city's population in terms of their taxes, possibly more. We don't know. But this is a difficult time for the residents of Jersey City, and I know we've all seen promises of great things happening in the past, and no one wishes this project, any ill will, except that I think the people are entitled in these tenuous times to fully understand the framework and the nature of how this thing is going to operate, how it's going to work, who the individuals are, and as you say, many of the sidebar things that may impact the future of this development as to what happens when they may develop private housing for people or whatever.
Right, it's not clear. And I
Yeah.
think, with this pending revaluation, a lot of people are going to get hurt, or we see that based on some of the numbers that we've looked at. I think that, abatements and projects of this magnitude, there should be a moratorium on that until the reval occurs. And if there is a way that this property can help bring, revenue into the city, that would be great. But I mean, if that means by doing it through lease or maybe selling it so that the project can continue, or other ventures, all those things need to be explored. And I think the public has a right to ask these questions and understand this project in detail before doing this major transfer of wealth. I don't believe that the city really has the right to do this without having this fully vetted by the public in an open forum so that the public can ask these questions and understand it in further detail. To say that there is no risk in this project there's risk in everything. Some risk is greater than others, but there's risk in everything. So that's such a red flag. To me, another red flag when someone says there's no risk. That's not true. There's always a risk. We haven't seen the projections, the projection numbers. We haven't seen the plan on how the Liberty Science Center feels or thinks or plans on how they're going to move this project forward. And so without those details and without that information, I don't think this is a good idea to move forward with.
Well, thank you, Esther. And Esther, I believe you want to add something about the Jersey City Medical Center?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that the medical center, which is an organization that is vital to this community, the administration, the previous administration, was going to sell 2.5 acres of land for about $12 million so the medical center could expand. This current administration stopped that and touted the fact that they were able to sell that property for double, $24 million for 2.5 acres of land. And I know that that's a little ways down the road and, may or may not have been clean property. I don't know. But that should give us an idea of the type of numbers that we're looking at when we talk about the value of land very close to the waterfront. This 16 acres of property that we're scanning across the street from is right by the light rail, views of New York, right over Liberty State Park, right by an entrance to the Jersey Turnpike. There has to be value in that. For the administration or for officials to call this land valueless is ridiculous. So I think those are things that make me want to know what is the value of this land and what exactly are the details of this agreement.
Okay, thank you, Esther.